Welcome to What Happens After the Show, where we discuss what happened on wrestling last night. So we are talking Raw from March 11th, 2024. The show started off with WrestleMania talk showing Lincoln Financial Field covering Cody Rhodes smacking The Rock on SmackDown, and then the tag match set up for WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus The Rock and Roman Reigns. If The Rock and Roman Reigns win, it's bloodline rules for Cody and The Rock WrestleMania Night 2. If Cody wins, then there are no bloodline involvement on Night 2. So, big stipulations set up for WrestleMania, but they get you ready for Houston, showing the arena. They show Travis Scott arriving, greeted by Jey Uso, and then Gunther arrives. The first proper segment of the show, Drew McIntyre in-ring promo. I'm really liking Drew's comfortability talking. It seems like on this run since CM Punk went down, he has really stepped up and kind of held that mantle. And, you know, when he referred to Punk, mentioned Rollins comes out and interrupts. And that kind of brought this segment down for me because Seth is amazing in ring. But when I see Seth, speaking, it doesn't do it for me. And, that's kind of where I was left with this. Seth said McIntyre is at the bottom of the list of things he's worried about at WrestleMania 40. So you got to wonder, are they subtly telegraphing Drew McIntyre win here? That could be something. I mean, you got to give Drew that moment since he came back. He really kind of competed during COVID times, won that championship, but didn't really go anywhere. Didn't really necessarily mean anything. So I think we're lining up for a big match at WrestleMania here. This was a pretty long talking segment at the beginning, but it gave way to the first actual match of the night where Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. Now, when they were returning from break, they did this great thing where they featured a Chad Gable promo, and then they featured a video talking about former Intercontinental champions. And what I really liked about that is they continued the trend throughout the show, and it really got you excited for the main event, but got you invested in each individual combatant in this match. Now, Becky ended up beating Liv with a manhandle slam, and after Becky beat Liv, Rhea Ripley came out, faced off with Becky Lynch, and just kind of had a war of words with her there. And this was going to be a good match either way at WrestleMania, but I'm going to say it a lot tonight, and it's something I really like about WWE now that things have kind of progressed, is that the storytelling is so much better, and you're excited for that match at the event, but then, just the anticipation of the match, the story building up to it is almost as good as the in-ring. And if you like what we're doing here, if you're watching us, we are going to be live on TikTok either directly after the show or the next day. And then later on down the line, the audio will go up on our podcast feeds. The video will go up on YouTube. But wherever you're watching us, follow, like, subscribe, share, all of it. Every little bit helps, especially the likes, shares, and comments. That builds us up in the algorithm and gets us out to more people. Now, after Rhea Ripley came out and faced off with Becky Lynch, we had Travis Scott getting fired up in the crowd. This was pretty cool to see. This was followed up by an impromptu tag match I did not expect. Candace, LaRae, and Indi Hartwell versus Ivy, Nile, and Maxine Dupree. This was a quick tag match in there, really trying to get over what ended up being close to the finish, where LaRae was putting down Dupree and feeding into that real-life talk about fans booing her in the ring or her not deserving to be where she is yet. If they're making it a storyline on TV, I believe they're trying to do something with it. So I'm interested to see where this was going. I thought this was just a clunky match to have here. This was followed up by Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis announcing the Judgment Day defending their titles in a six-pack ladder match at Mania. Truth comes out. Priest tells Pearce to make the match. So they set up a six-pack ladder match, and I believe this was R-Truth's idea. And that's why Damian Priest, getting mad that Truth is putting him in the spot, comes out to confront him, tells Pearce to make the match. And this is another great storytelling element. Coming down the line, we are going to get an announcement for next week setting up contenders for this ladder match. And you're going to have this going forward to WrestleMania. We're about 3 weeks to a month out. I think it's 3 weeks. And it's getting closer. They're building more things. And speaking of building more things, next up was Cody Rhodes in the ring. They had a video recapping the feud and build up to this point. Cody says the slap was a receipt. And an interesting thing mentioned in here is Cole asked Cody how he can trust Seth, given that Seth was the last person to beat Roman, even though it was by DQ. And that was an interesting question, sowing seeds of doubt for could something possibly happen in that match. Cody gets emotional during building the story, but ends on a strong note. And, you know, Cody has an interesting challenge here because he's building up a match on night 1 of WrestleMania, but then the match on night 2 is arguably the main event that people, I mean, we got it last year. We're hoping we get the ending to the main event that we wanted this year. This Cody segment was followed up by a Ricochet promo, followed by a JD McDonough promo, followed by another IC title promo. So I'm loving the videos they're dropping in here. You know, they're highlighting each person in the match. They used to do this during Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, videos building up the combatants or teams that are going into the event, and then, you know, making you invested in everybody later on. Another match that had previously been announced for Raw, in addition to the Becky Lynch match earlier, was Kabuki Warriors versus Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark for the Women's Tag Team Championships. This was a good women's match, but, I mean, at this point in the show, I wasn't impatient, but I was really more excited for the Gauntlett match, and those videos that they had building it up where, you know, they had it going even more. You know, Kabuki Warriors win after this. You see Liv backstage going to shake hands with Becky, and Nia attacks them both. So this is, you know, further advancing storylines, further making us excited, intrigued for what's going on towards WrestleMania. Andrade is backstage in the next segment, and Rhea says Dom isn't there this week. So if Andrade wants to come back next week, they can possibly talk business. And, you know, setting up an alliance with Andrade and the Judgment Day, that could be interesting. You know, I wouldn't have minded seeing Andrade on his own, but seeing Andrade with the Judgment Day, it gives another wrinkle to what Andrade is doing, makes him that much more interesting. The match following this was the match we had set up earlier, R-Truth versus Damian Priest. They came back from break. They played a Shinsuke Nakamura promo. They played a Bronson Reed promo. As the match went on for a little bit, you know, R-Truth was really getting beat down by Damian Priest. DIY comes out to kind of be in Truth's corner and give him some kind of representation at ringside, but, you know, it was all for naught. Damian Priest eventually got the win, and then after the match, Judgment Day comes in, beats down DIY and Truth. Something in me says they got to be setting up for a 6-man tag match next week, or Yeah, it would have to be most likely in the next couple weeks because I believe most everyone is involved at Mania. And if you're just tuning in now, are you following us? Can you give us a like? Can you give us a share? If you're so daring, subscribe. This is a wrestling review show that is going to be live either right after the event or a day after. But if you tune into the Working Fans podcast on any podcast platform or YouTube, it'll go up later. But if you want to comment live, the only time to comment live is on TikTok Live. Following up this match, Becky Lynch challenges Nia Jax to a last woman standing match next week. And Becky admits this is not the best idea going into WrestleMania. Could weaken her for things, but could we just see Nia Jax inserting herself into that WrestleMania picture? It's very much a possibility, but I don't know. We're going to have to see going forward. Jey Uso came out after this to a huge reaction from the Houston crowd. You know, he main evented WrestleMania last year, teaming with his brother. This year, Jey is challenging his brother at WrestleMania. So we have that match getting set up. WrestleMania adding a lot of big matches to the card. Each week we're seeing, you know, a new match go on there, something new to get excited for. So Raw was moving at a pretty good pace right here. You know, maybe the ladies tag match in the middle was at an odd spot, but it was still great action. Following Jey Uso, you got a video covering Gunther's title reign, and then after that video highlighting Gunther's almost 2 years as champion, maybe a little over 2 years. It was 654 days, something like that. Gunther came out and he put over all the competitors in the Gauntet match. So you had him really coming off a little more babyface here, perhaps, and, you know, setting up that anybody that wins this match could be viable to take him on. And it was right before this IC title Gauntet match that qualifying matches were announced for Raw next week for the six-pack ladder match. You've got New Day versus Otis and Tozawa, DIY versus the Creed brothers, and Awesome Truth versus Indi. So once again, WWE and Raw in particular doing real good to build up their week-to-week show and giving you, you know, an idea of what you're looking at and having everything build up to WrestleMania. So IC title match Gauntet starts off with Ricochet and McDonough in the ring. This was a great match, but Ricochet beats McDonough. And then Bronson Reed came out, and Ricochet put up a fight against Reed, but Reed eventually beats Ricochet. Sami Zayn comes out next, and he goes head-to-head with Bronson Reed. This was a great clash of two people you want to see in that IC title match, but Sami eventually beat Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed followed up by Nakamura, a match we got at Nakamura's debut at TakeOver. And then we got it again on Raw. And when these two go in the ring, it is a great matchup. So it was great to see here as well. But Sami beat Nakamura. And that left you with Sami versus Gable in the finals of this IC title Gauntet match. The two people that arguably you would have thought would win this. And these two, one heck of a match again. You had Sami eventually beat Gable, and then Gunther came out. And at least when I was watching this on Sling, Gunther came out, and then it cut quick to that new rant show they were highlighting on Raw. So that was a rundown of Monday Night Raw.